Greetings, comrades. Welcome to the Postmodern Polymath Podcast. I'm your intrepid host and priest of the wokest day, Chris. Lyman is once again in medical peril. Apparently, this time he has ripped his thumbnail off. Now I think he's just making shit up because I've had done that. I put some damn rubbing alcohol in Neosporin and wrap it up. And he's got a wife with kids. Does she not take care of him? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Just kidding, ladies. Okay. So, anyway, this week I have with me somebody I initially saw on my friend Zach's show. She is a writer and an activist and an all-around awesome person. Krista Cox, how you doing, Krista?
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. As I mentioned before you came on, you were on Zach's show, Zach Religious Cast.
Yep.
And I was like, she's pretty cool. I had actually read that article he was talking about because I knew you were coming on his show, and I went on around. I thought it was a good article because it wasn't just all facts and figures and didn't come off as being particularly, I don't know, shitty, I guess. Overly, you know what I'm saying? Like, fucking Silverman, fuck him. You know, it was kind of more of a personal fuck you, but it wasn't quite.
Right.
You know.
I tried to keep that mostly in the subtext and not in
right.
the...
So it's a subtextual fuck you. That's why I liked it. And I liked your backstory. First of all, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am a paralegal during the day at an environmental and insurance coverage firm. And I volunteer with the Humanist Alliance. I'm the chair of the advisory council there, which the Humanist Alliance, which I will call the FHA if I refer to it ever again in this hour, is one of the social justice organizations of the American Humanist Association. I write poetry, though I haven't written that much recently. What else? I turned 40 last December, and I have 2 kids and a dog and 3 cats. There's my dog. Yeah. Anything else you want to know?
No, I think that about covers it. I will mention that Krista has agreed to read one of her poems at the end of the show, so that's very kind of her. And actually, we just stumbled upon which one it was literally like 20 minutes ago or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we better just kind of. First of all, I'm going to say you're one of the most JW types.
Yeah. So, hardcore. I'm so bad. I don't even understand how that's an insult.
You're part of the wokest, which.
Yes, that is the new word.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right in part of that. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it because, as you mentioned, a little backstory. I had mentioned that I was listening to. I don't know. I do this to myself all the time. Smalley, he was on Dogma Debates. Silverman was, and I was listening to it. It's just the same. Anybody who can make David Smalley sound like a reasonable person to me. Is got some issues. Okay, so obviously, if you've listened to my show, we've talked about Silverman a couple of times. I think me and Lyman talked about the previous allegations. I don't think the newest one. I don't know that we talked about the newest one with Rebecca Vitzman. I can't remember. That's a fairly new one, I think. But anyway, we'll get to that. But first of all, let's talk specifically about the article you wrote.
Sure. So the article that I wrote was after Silverman was appointed as the executive director of Atheist Alliance International. And this was, what was it, like 18 months, 9 months? I forget the exact number. After he was publicly accused of sexual assault and harassment by at least 2 different people and lost his job at American Atheists. For unrelated but related reasons. The official reasons aren't, the allegations weren't the official reasons. There was already actually an investigation pending. when those allegations came out. But anyway, so I found his being appointed to a leadership position in an atheist organization to be very concerning, particularly not just because of the allegations. I think that that's serious, and I think an argument can be made that it's disqualifying from leadership positions by itself. But on top of that, after Silverman left Atheist Alliance, American Atheists, he kind of descended into like MRAville. He's using a lot of really, he seemed to change his tune completely. He used to be a pretty outspoken advocate for social justice causes and women's rights, and I don't think I ever heard him badmouth intersectionality, for example. But he still asserts that the accusations against him are false and that he got a raw deal and there was no due process, and as a result has become an anti-feminist. Now he's just one guy, right? And there's lots of people who have lots of opinions, and whatever, don't get concerned about it. But he was a pretty big name in the movement, and being, an organizational leader, it makes you ask, like, okay, so are these viewpoints like going to be represented institutionally now? Is this going to be like an endorsed kind of viewpoint? Does this international atheist group believe the same things? And, are they going to spend their dollars promoting anti-wokeist rhetoric? And a big part of my mission is increasing diversity and accessibility in the movement for people who are from marginalized groups. I think, as I said in the article, my impression of the at least the humanist movement, but I think the atheist movement as well, is that it is predominantly older white men. Shocking.
What?
And of course, I am strictly against all older white men, and that's why I have a problem with it, because they should just all go away and disappear forever. No, the real problem is that that's not representative of what the world looks like. It's not representative of what like the larger base of atheists actually look like, which means to me that there's not, there's all these atheists out there from marginalized groups who don't have access to the same kind of, support and community, because white people have made it unsafe or unappealing. And I think that we have to change that. So seeing people go in the opposite direction is very concerning to me. It makes my job a lot harder.
Yeah, there is a rift, and it's growing, and Silverman is actively trying to create that. He's trying to kind of split off a section for himself, is what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
Because I guess he was just full of shit the whole time, was just looking for an angle where he could get in and be the leader of. So now he's trying to get on this anti-wokeist. And if I hear wokeist one more fucking time from him, I'm going to find him and strangle him, because I'm sick. He says it every other fucking word.
Yeah.
Wokeist. And now he's got a fucking shirt that says Wokeist Day, which I've made fun of. It's so clever. You're so clever. And it's like a little pyramid. It's supposed to be like, some secret society or Freemason. I don't know, it's stupid. But yeah, he's kind of on that train now. And now he's gotten to some foundation, which I'm sure is going to do some anti-SJW shit. I'm sure that's what that's all about.
Oh yeah, Conroe. Are you talking about Conroe Foundation?
Yeah.
It's like right there in their mission statement that they are like anti-social justice. Atheist Alliance International was not. It wasn't that explicit, although there were hints, that maybe they didn't totally disagree with that ideology. I noticed that their fan base on Facebook is largely leaning that direction. But yeah, Conroe is explicitly, and I think today he was promoting a couple of other organizations that are also, explicitly anti-wokeist.
I wanted to. One was Oh, it's IAA, and it's the Godless Mom, Courtney Hurd, I believe her name is, and I forgot the other one.
Oh,
Bridget.
atheists for, oh, the other person? Yeah.
Yeah, Bridget Godet, or I'm not really familiar with. That's one, and that's specifically about helping atheists in other countries. Or
Yeah.
that looks fine. I mean that he's promoting it, but just because he's promoting doesn't necessarily mean it's
Right. Well, and I think that was, I think Courtney left AAI over like programming disagreements or something, and is basically starting up the same sort of thing for herself.
yeah. So that's fine. But the other one, atheists for liberty. Anytime I hear that, any liberty anywhere, that usually means, and generally it's right wing fucking Christian types. It's
Yeah.
always something to keep your liberty away from you, is usually what that means. Freedom Caucus or liberty, anything, just puts out alarm bells to me.
Yeah, because the question is like liberty for whom? Whose liberty are you really fighting for? Because I feel like I'm fighting for the liberty of, like Black and brown people and gay people and queer people and the people who don't have full access to liberty as we intended it in the Constitution or whatever. But they're specifically fighting against that, which means they're fighting for liberty for the other people who have a lot. I think a lot of people would argue they already have more liberty than anyone else.
They're oppressed. I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first person I saw was Peter Boghossian, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can see where this is gonna go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and Shermer as well.
oh, he's fun. He's a fun guy.
He's just in an advisory capacity.
That's bad. That's bad enough.
Yeah.
So that looks like it's like I said. It looks like they're gonna try to split off. Because in the beginning, of course, and like you said, atheism, organized atheism, I guess, has been a white man's game, and really, just about everything's been a white man's game for the last fucking 1,000
Forever.
years or whatever.
Yeah.
But and of course, then we get into trying to diversify, like what you're trying to do with the American atheist, or well, you're an offshoot of American atheist. I mean, American humanist. Sorry.
American humanists. Yep.
So this is obviously a counter reaction to you pesky SJW types trying to make people aware maybe of certain things that may not be cool to people who weren't white dudes, I guess.
Yeah.
Such as diversity, and some people might be a little offended by some things you say because, maybe they have a little sensitivity to them being called bad names by you. Or being
I don't call
condescending.
anybody bad names. I mean, I definitely come off as condescending, I'm sure sometimes, but no, I mean, I think it's real interesting. I mean, people are very sensitive to being called racist or whatever, which I think
I'm sorry, I meant the other people are the ones that are being.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, we're sensitive. They're calling us sensitive. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, they're the ones saying the stupid shit.
Yes.
That's what I was saying.
Okay. Gotcha. No, that's okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, they seem to be indicating, and it worked. It seemed like there's always been resistance. It seems like, obviously, anytime that kind of thing happens, because power doesn't give it, yield easily a lot of times. And there's been allies and whatever. And like you said, Silverman seemed to be an ally for a while, but then I just don't know if he was just putting it on. But I think we have seen some progress. I mean, from your standpoint, I mean, I know there's been obviously this split, but have you seen progress since the time you've been in the movement?
Well, to be fair, I've only been in the movement since 2016, so it's just been a few years. So, and actually, I've only been really active the last year or so. So yes. I think that, like, for example, American Humanists has got a more diverse board than they did just a couple of years ago, which I think that's important. I think, unless we have people of color and, non-cis heteronormative people in power, then it's really just it's all just tokenism anyway. I mean, it needs to be real positions of power. So I think that that's really great. I think that from an educational standpoint, we're having a lot more difficult conversations, and I think that's really important and good. But I think that's also what fuels the rift, what makes people really uncomfortable, right? I mean, I get the sense that, something I said earlier today about this Atheists for Liberty thing is that side of the movement just seems like appealing because it doesn't require serious self-reflection from people, right? I mean, I can do all kinds of activism to, make things more diverse, but unless I'm also really taking a hard look at myself and my own internal biases and, the ways that I participate and benefit from, white supremacy, not like on purpose, but just because I'm a white person, like moving through the world in the ways that I've been socialized, it's really uncomfortable. Those are really uncomfortable things to think about yourself and to have to really confront. And reactionary causes, like against social justice, don't ask that of people. I mean, it's a very externally focused side of the movement, right? It's very focused on what everybody else is doing and how it's wrong, and not necessarily how we're complicit in the things that are wrong. And I do see a lot of people having those conversations with themselves more often on the social justice side of things. And so I do think that progress is being made, but it's slow. And I'm very concerned about, the rising counter movement, and what impact that's going to have, because I mean, I don't know how anybody can feel safe in an atheist movement when there's, this whole section of atheists who are like basically yelling, "You're not welcome here," all the time. So.
Well, you're welcome as long as you follow our rules. And the rules we set up are the white man rules. So that's the only rules you need. Even as long as as long as you consent to being put down passive, well, not even passive aggressively.
Right.
Or being, subservient to white men's needs, then no, we don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, you can be part of our movement. Just don't complain if you're oppressed or abused or, because that's social justice bullshit.
Well, that's what it boils down to, I think. And like you said, it's a lack of self-reflection. I mean, because obviously nothing's black or white or whatever. And, there's always going to be extremist elements in any sort of movement or anything like that. But social justice, and yes, there are people who are social justice-y who are kind of assholes. Sure, whatever. But if you're
there's assholes everywhere. No escaping them.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like, but the kind of grasp on that as sort of representative of what the entire movement is about, to me, is just disingenuous. And you're just looking for a reason to be angry white guys. Is what it just feels like a club to me, some sort of, and it's this whole trend of white dudes feeling disenfranchised because, I can't touch a woman anymore. I can't hug a woman. I can't call a black person whatever, all this political correctness. What the fuck's this place coming to?
Yeah.
Shit like that. And that, to me, that's all it is. It's just a reaction, like a reactionary to all the diversity and they're not afraid of change is what and that's a lot of this conflict that's going on, I think. And it's just a symptom of that. And you're right. I mean, it's pretty toxic. I mean, when you have an entire, I guess, sect, I don't know what you would call it, of the movement or whatever, that's dedicated basically, guys, I don't even know what are they for? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, they would say Enlightenment values, right, which includes free speech. I think the argument that they would make is that, for example, saying, you're not allowed to say the N-word, that's limiting free speech, right, to protect people's fees. and stuff like that. I think that their impression is that because people are starting to point out the larger harm that words can have. Words, the way we communicate is part of and contributes to the systems of power, right? So, there's lots of language that we use that it propagates harmful stereotypes. It's, hurtful, and not just like to personal individuals, right? But it allows these systems to be propagated and to exist and continue to oppress people, right? And so by pointing that out and saying people shouldn't talk this way anymore, that's a suppression of free speech, right? And it's like opposed to Enlightenment values. And some of the other Enlightenment values I always hear about, especially recently in response to the Me Too movement, are due process and not taking sides until everyone's, you have all the facts and stuff like that. And really, it's about holding the public opinion to, judicial standards, which is, it's just a way of silencing is what it is.
Yeah. If you use Silverman as an example, he's God. Like you said, he used to be an ally, or he acted like an ally. Now he's just completely just lost it. He's gone completely off the rails. He's saying he's going on Sargon's show. If you're going on Sargon's show, I don't even know what to tell you at this point. He's the guy that calls feminism what does he say? Feminism a mental disorder or something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sargon's the guy that says that.
Oh
shit,
yeah, yeah.
And he's purposely provocative. He's not even. To me, that's somebody who does that kind of shit doesn't really have anything novel to say. They just do that shock value to get people to fucking listen to him. I don't think he's really whatever.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it works for a certain contingent of people. So.
Well, and again, that comes back to that whole part of the community. It's almost like they're just trying to get together to kind of just complain about, how they're oppressed and shit, and they need to get together. Oh, men, like some big, I don't know, dick waving convention. I don't know what's going on there.
Well, look, for people who have, it's not okay. So, one of Silverman's big things is false allegations, and I know that he was, harassing some people on Twitter the other day to try to get them to admit that false allegations are, as harmful to the feminist movement as, sexual harassment is, and or as harmful to women or whatever, and stuff like that. And so it's really, it would suck to have false allegations made against you. It's not fair. I'm not taking a position about any specific allegations, but that it does happen, and it's terrible. I don't think it's fine, right? And some people have suggested that feminists think that it's like, well, it's it's just fair because we've gotten sexually harassed and assaulted for so long that it's just whatever. And I don't agree with that, but it also is not the same, right, as being sexually assaulted or harassed or raped. And also it's not a systemic problem. Excuse me, I need to drink water. And so taking an individual problem that does happen but doesn't happen systemically, and then elevating it to the level of, oh, this is the same thing as sexual harassment, or why aren't more people standing out against or speaking out against this thing that happens. I don't know. It's taking a personal experience and universalizing it. Whereas, when women say this is what it's like to be a woman, these are the oppressions we're subjected to every day. That's a much larger, base of experience. So I don't know. It's got to suck personally. It seems like, what David Silverman went through completely broke him, and that's sad. But he's turning around and using it to hurt other people, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, in as much as he always says, well, nobody knows what happened unless they were there. Okay. Thanks there, Mr. Wizard. We know that. But I mean, in as much as we can tell what other people have said about it, and what other parties have talked about, and if it feels like he's been like you said. I mean, okay, so he disappeared from the movement from when he said he had a nervous breakdown. He's talking about suicide and all this stuff. Okay, I'm not going to discount anybody's personal struggles or whatever. I mean, that's a shitty thing. But like you said, to come back and just not only just throw out the whole the thing he was doing before and completely go, I mean, completely the other direction.
Yeah.
I don't see how you can look at that only in two ways. Either he was, like you say, he was so broken that he wants revenge, is essentially that, or he was just full of shit the whole time, and he's trying another angle to get into power. I don't know.
Nobody can know unless they're in his head. So, but I mean, to be fair, I mean, he has real difficulty respecting boundaries, even on Twitter. So it's not a far leap from there to, not interacting with women appropriately. So, everything I've seen, there's a case he could make for himself that, would make it seem more likely that they were false allegations or whatever. And then there's the way he's actually behaving, which is very incriminating. So I don't know. Honestly, there's a big part of me that wants to just never talk about him again, because I don't think he's got anything valuable to say anymore. It makes me really angry and sad. But I think that his whole little thing should just dry up, because it sucks.
Yeah, but the problem is, and the problem has been that we've seen, and yeah, he's just a petty little shit. I don't really obviously care about him, but we have seen this whole thing of where white men seem to do this kind of shit. Larger. I don't degree to me doesn't really matter. It's the whole idea that they get away with this shit and then they get right back up again and. Yeah. Oh, I'm so oppressed. Oh, can I get this new position that they just fucking made just for me?
Right.
But you have women who are just ruined and they aren't able to bounce back from that. I mean, obviously Silverman is a different case. He's not like Louis C.K., whose women's careers he literally did ruin.
Right.
And of course, you don't know about the untold anytime there's any kind of keeping down of when you don't know the untold cost, the unknown women who might not have gone into comedy because they heard these stories about dudes like him doing shit like this, and that is going the same. And this is going to go into kind of the state of the woman in the movement, I guess. How many women are not coming into I guess the humanist movement? Fuck the atheist movement right now. I'm more about the humanist stuff. I mean, are not coming into that because they see shit like this. Why they're just going to get, I'm afraid I'm going to get harassed or something like that, or my feelings aren't going to be taken into account.
Or even just, this movement doesn't reflect my values, right? Movements that are going to give Lawrence Krauss speaking positions after the accusations against him, stuff like that. Even if you don't fear for your personal safety, it can be hard to do I want to be part of that? No. So go ahead.
What is your personal experience? I mean, you don't have to be specific, obviously, but I mean, as a woman and you've only in your limited time, have you experienced anything approaching that, even if it's kind of ethereal, not necessarily?
So I haven't. Well, one of the benefits, I guess, of the work that I'm doing is it's all remote. Right. So I'm not, in spaces with people who could harass me or touch me inappropriately very often. Right. So I haven't been touched inappropriately that I can remember. I mean, nothing that stuck in my head. So, I've heard sexist stuff. So in the movement, sure. Just people talking about, oh, the way women are dressed, and then they're surprised that people objectify them, just stuff like that. I mean, nothing that's, personally, directed at me personally as offensive or anything like that, but just, attitudes that I find harmful. But I mean, one of the starkest things was just going to that first conference that I went to in Charleston in 2016, and it was just, I mean, there were very few non-white younger women, right? There's mostly old white men. To be fair, the panels at that conference were incredible. I mean, they were diverse. They were like really hard hitting. Like Robin DiAngelo was talking about whiteness, right? And that was, it forced people to look at themselves. And at the conference in last year, oh no, I can't remember his name, but there was another guy who talked about whiteness, and it was really like, look at yourselves, whiteies. And I thought that was great. And there was, like educational panels on like, what does genderqueer mean and things like that. So, there was like this disconnect between the people that I was seeing there and the material that was being presented, which is, the material that's being presented is in line with the values of the organization as a whole. It's because they pick who's going to talk. So really it's been more about like, I think it's actually I'm less concerned about women in the movement right now, which is one of the reasons that, our main goal at the Feminist Humanist Alliance has been to increase access for marginalized people, like including women, but more so people of color and LGBTQ plus people. And I don't know, I mean, I still don't think there's like, half women at the conferences or anything like that. But I do think that there's a lot of organizations that are really focusing on this, like Secular Woman is doing a lot of great stuff. And I know that there's a number of organizations that have strong, like women leadership, like, boards that are half women or whatever. So women, I think, are doing okay. Although, obviously, there's lots of stories. Just because it hasn't happened to me doesn't mean it's not happening all the time at conferences and, sexual assault and harassment and rape. And I mean, Silverman's harassing women friends of mine on Twitter about atheist stuff. I mean, just harassing, like persistent badgering, even after asked to stop.
Well, and I don't know, to be fair, I guess that's the reason he is the guy that they went to American Atheist in the beginning, because they wanted fucking publicity and
Right.
they wanted a fucking attack dog to go out and do exactly badger these religious types.
Yeah.
And he can't turn it off apparently, and he's doing this to people he has no business doing it to. So
Right. That's fair. I mean, that's a fair point.
So, I mean, he's an asshole, but I mean, it depends. Like, I don't go in for that. I mean, I was of the opinion that there's one side is there are some people you get to by being that way, maybe. And then there's some people who are more amenable to, kind of cool logic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm so much of that mind anymore. I guess it depends, but let's get back kind of, because you're right, he is kind of just useless right now. But I am interested in your statement about being more diverse. Now, I have noticed that I went to, what was it, Skepticon a couple of years ago, and they had pretty diverse panels there. As I recall, they have gender neutral bathrooms. Well, they made them that way, but I thought that was interesting. So yeah, I think the panels so much aren't it's just, I don't know that in and of itself that's enough to get the butts in the seats, so to speak, right? To get the people who are attending to match that kind of diversification.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, I mean, I agree, because I wouldn't want to, the point of those panels is to educate white people, right? And cis people. And I mean, Black people don't need to go to panels about how whiteness is oppressive. So, I mean, it shows a real, positive effort on behalf of the organizations to like educate their membership. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Is, in order to create a safe environment for marginalized people, you can't just like, well, which things are going to attract them? What's going to attract them is like a membership that cares about their experiences, isn't going to treat them like shit, And so, like, one of the things that one of the projects of the FHA is this social justice representative program, which works with individual AHA chapters to help educate the chapter memberships about social justice issues. So, because I just don't think it's enough, like, organizationally, we can have, the AHA has got tons of really progressive resolutions, statements of their principles and values and goals. But that doesn't necessarily keep out, racists. They don't feel committed to those values. They go to their, monthly humanist meetings in their local chapter. And, they get the benefit of that without having to really change their mind, unless somebody's kind of like pushing them along. I think, humanists and skeptics they have a special predisposition to being open-minded and like listening and willing to change, just because it's just the nature of humanism, I think, and skepticism. But if there's not like active education happening, it's not going to matter. So.
Well, certainly there's a ways to go. I mean, you can, teach all that stuff, and but people may not listen, or they may just be there to kind of surf. They hear it, but they don't listen, or
right,
whatever, the opposite. But it's going to take a while to kind of get that diversity, I think.
Yeah.
To be, and it's just you're going to have. I think you can only do so much within the framework of society itself, I think, and that's to say that. Patriarchy is just a thing, and it's hard to overcome that as a society altogether, much less in any subset of society. So I feel like that's a struggle. Oh, Jesus, that's a struggle that's ever ongoing.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate what y'all are doing and what Humanist Association is doing to kind of try to bring that to light, because I have seen because I've been to conferences, and let me make this. Let me make a distinction between y'all, like the Humanist Association, and like American Atheists, or some of these skeptic conferences, little ones that I've been to in the area or whatever. These are not specifically, the ones I go to are not humanist. In so much, it's just they're more like just skeptic. I mean, it's just kind of a grab all, right, of atheist.
Sure.
And I don't. They've gotten a little better, but if I see it Matt Dillahunty at one more fucking thing, I'm just going to throw up. I'm sorry. He's at every single fucking one. It's like a default. Can't you default to somebody else? It's not so much him as a person. It's just a white guy. He's almost like a token white guy. I was like, okay, can't we try to get like maybe a person of color or something like that?
Right.
And I have like Mandisa Thomas. That's my, that's my person right there. I love Mandisa, and she to me is kind of, they're doing that women of color, and I always mess up the name of the conference. It's like Women of Color Beyond
Belief. No, you got it. You were almost there.
Belief.
Yeah.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
Which I missed last year. I'm going to try really hard to go to this one, but she's doing that, which I think is awesome. I mean, that specific subset of the movement definitely is something that needs to be focused on, because black women are apparent, from what I've learned fairly recently, although I've heard of it before, is they're pretty low as far as if you want to go into intersectionality. Black women are like pretty low. I mean, they are mistreated even more so than, I watched Surviving R. Kelly, and that was difficult to watch. So I've seen kind of the dynamics going on there, and I'm glad she's opening up a space for that, because I think there needed to be one.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll see you there. I'm planning to go this year.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Chicago's not that far, actually. I live in Nashville, so.
I'm in South Bend, Indiana, so it's just a
Oh,
2
you're in
hour
Mayor
drive.
Pete
I
land.
am in Mayor Pete land. Oh, are you
Oh,
gonna make me
yeah.
talk about Mayor Pete now?
No, because I don't. I'm not a big fan. Just saying. Anyway, no, I will leave that alone because that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different show, which I'm probably going to talk about next time because the show will be the day after Super Tuesday. So
Uh,
I'm going to that's going to have to be about that, and that's a whole big mess. Fucking Bloomberg.
yeah,
I
I
can't. I
this,
can't.
this whole primary thing is killing me. I'm very political and very quiet about it right now because it's just a lot.
I'm very yeah, and I'm having a well. We see each other on Facebook. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm not in a good place with some of the shit that's going on. But anyway, yeah, conferences like that make me happy, make me optimistic as much as I can be because I'm not generally an optimistic person. Excuse me. Um, but I also like a okay, Kat. See, this kind of shit I'm talking about. When I see stuff like that, fuck off, Cat. Okay. Um, I'm heartened, but then I see shit, and I think it's because the stuff that happens to Silverman and with other guys who make these claims of being falsely accused, are these fucking conferences where they're just fucking like American Atheist. Apparently, it's just a fucking just booze fest. I don't know what's happened. Some of these conferences are known for like hooking up.
Oh, see, I'm going to AWP next week, the Association of Writers and Publishers Conference in San Antonio next week. That one, you get a bunch of introvert writers together, like 14,000 introvert writers or something. That one's a booze fest. The
Yeah.
Humanist Association one, it's not a booze fest.
Well,
not,
oh, okay.
not even close.
Well, you know what I'm saying though, and there's just kind of these kind of, and I've been to a couple of them, sure, and there's this kind of attitude like, well, and I think it's probably because it's in like especially in the atheist community or in communities where you're not generally accepted by you're kind of the out group maybe.
Yeah,
There seems to be more of we're around our own people, and so we're just kind of letting go or whatever,
yeah.
and so maybe there's a little more things that are happening that maybe should not be happening. And of course, most of it's probably consensual. I don't doubt that. But this does kind of foster an environment where this kind of things can happen.
Hmm.
And I feel like men who are already predisposed to take liberties with women may be more predisposed, especially in events like that.
Yeah, and I think just as a society, we have really fuzzy, shitty ideas about consent anyway. And I think it informs a lot of the way that things. Like, do you remember the Aziz Ansari accusations? There was the article written by this woman named Grace, and it was basically
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, like he was just real pressury, and didn't ultimately like close the deal. He didn't really assault her. It was like a kind of it was a much more gray area, right?
yeah.
Because he
Right,
was
yeah, yeah.
pressuring and but like and she was saying no but didn't leave. And so like but that was it was so illuminating because all of my woman friends were like, holy shit, I've been there, right? And it sucked and it didn't feel good. And all of the men are like, that doesn't count. Like that's just how it works. Like it's not her or it's not his fault. She just like couldn't say no well enough or whatever. And I mean, it just really speaks to like, there's not, or we don't expect clear, verbal, like enthusiastic consent. Men mostly, do not expect that. That's not their standard. And they're also not being very careful to be tuned in to the body language and nonverbal signals that they're getting from their partners. So, it's a big problem. And yes, I think, alcohol and those kind of environments gives them like more opportunity.
Yeah, certainly. men need to be more educated on consent, and we've seen that. That's not even a surprise to anybody
Right.
that's paying attention, especially obviously women. Men have a problem with that sort of thing, and yeah, okay, yes, patriarchy is a thing, and yes, you've been taught probably from birth, unless you have the most enlightened fucking parents ever, that you're a guy, and guys just boys will be boys, and maybe it's not explicitly stated all the time,
Right.
but it's okay, just she's don't worry about it. You're entitled,
Sex
right?
is for men anyway. Women are just,
Yeah,
passive participants.
gives a shit. I mean, so, and it's threatening, this whole new, and it goes back to the whole thing with the angry man thing, the split off from the atheist for liberty or whatever, and all those people, all those guys, all those Silverman types. They've been. I don't now. I'm not speaking for all of them. I'm sure there's some that are genuinely.
Hashtag not all atheists.
No, fuck that. Most of them probably are. If I'm being honest, I mean, I'm going off here, but have you seen the homepage of Atheist for Liberty? Have
Yes.
you seen it? Libertarians, centrists, classical liberals. I'm like, no,
No.
no, no. Okay, good. I'm glad we got that straightened out. At least you were open about it right up front.
Right.
I know you're a bunch of fucking whiny ass white men. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, but it does go back to that, and self-reflection again. We were talking about self-reflection earlier. It shows a lack of self-reflection. I mean, it's like the whole idea of privilege. Like, okay, calm down. Nobody's saying it's you personally, and that's what they think you're personally talking to them. And when things become personal, and I'm anybody, you think it's personal and you get mad, right? I mean, and it's not always easy to deal with. It takes practice. But it's just the very fact that you are a white guy or a guy or whatever level of intersectionality you're talking about. These things have been taught to you, and maybe you have to unlearn some of them, right? And
Yeah.
I feel self-reflection is something that's lacking.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about defensiveness, right? And so, like, that's the whole trick. Is that? Sorry, I have a tickle. I think in a lot of ways. It has Mio in it because I hate just water. So it's got sweet tea Mio in it. So it's no calories, but it doesn't taste like nothing. I don't like things that taste like nothing. So I think as a society, we have been taught that if we feel defensive, then it means someone has wronged us in some way, right? We're either being attacked or like somebody's done something or said something that's, personal to us. And I think often that defensiveness is a flag for like people automatically push it away. Like, I'm going to dump this on you. Don't say that to me, whatever. I'm not a racist, blah, blah, blah. When I think what we need to do is sit with it, right? Like people are terrible about sitting with that discomfort and asking where it's coming from. And I know for me, like, okay, so I was on a date. I was on OkCupid dating. This is actually probably a good segue into the poem. But I was on OkCupid for many years when I was single, not all too long ago. And there was this one, and it's a terrible experience, online dating. It was, that was constant harassment and grossness and like, there was no picture I could post that some man wouldn't send some gross thing to me. Like, I remember I had a picture of like, I was eating mashed potatoes and some guy was like, oh, I wish I could be that fork. And it's like, are you fucking kidding? So, yeah. So, there was this one guy who sent me this message and it was like almost incoherent. And I would, occasionally post things on my private Facebook page to like make fun of these dudes being clueless or sexist or whatever. So I posted this and I made some joke. And one of my friends commented on it that actually the way he speaks is very much like someone who learned ASL as their first language, like somebody who's deaf and learned ASL and then learned written English after that. and that she thought I was being ableist by making fun of this. And like my first reaction was like, "Ugh, you fucking bitch! Like it's just not that big of a deal, you know? Like this is in my head, and like, oh, well, how come he gets the benefit of the doubt and I don't?" And like it's not like I said anything to him, you know. I wasn't making fun of him to his face. I'm just making fun of him behind his back. And then, but I didn't post any of that. I sat with it for a minute, and I was like, I mean, maybe she's right. I don't know. He could just be like whatever, but like what's the harm in me not making fun of that guy? There's no harm in me not making fun of him. There's potential harm in me making fun of him. So I just, you know, apologized and didn't make fun of him. And I, you know, it's my ability to like take that minute instead of being like, fuck you. And deciding like what is the right path to do, like what's the path of least harm from here, even if it's a tiny stupid thing that really isn't gonna, it doesn't seem like it's going to impact anybody. Like those things add up over time and they contribute to like the larger conversation. So I think they do matter.
Okay, first of all, I want to commend you on admitting that you thought, "Oh fuck you, bitch." That was everything right there. I know, but it was just. I like it when people could admit they think shit like that. You know?
Yeah.
Because we're human or whatever. But yeah, I've heard that before. Like, just let it sit there for a minute. Just like, okay, why am I getting pissed off about it? And that is not easy because it's not something we're trained to do. Like you said, we're just like supposed to come right back out. Like, why are you getting so pissed off? You know,
right? Don't ruin my fun. Who cares? It's harmless. It's harmless fun.
And I have specifically a friend on Facebook who posts these kind of things a lot because I guess she just goes dates on. I'm not judging her or anything like that, but I'm just saying she's on Tinder or OkCupid a lot or whatever it is, and she gets these kind of messages, and I've seen, and then I keep meaning to do a segment on the show just reading some of these messages these guys send, and I keep forgetting to do it.
Oh, I had a whole website at one point that was all just, it was called Plenty of Fishy, and it was just all shitty, weird messages from dudes.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's just amazing to me. Does this work? Has this ever worked? I'm trying to think of the caliber of person who this would work for.
Right.
And I don't think it would be anybody. Because because for you to keep doing it either indicates it's worked at some time or you're just the most clueless human being on the face of the planet.
Right.
Well, then I have to multiply it by fucking 100 because apparently different guys keep doing the same thing.
Yep.
So and then there's the dick pics. What? You don't come right out the gate with a dick pic.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea where that started and like how they think that's gonna.
Do you think your penis is Venus de Milo? Or I don't understand.
It seems like a fundamental misunderstanding of the way that women's libido works.
And that may be something, back to the, not learning. We just weren't taught. We are the center of attention. What matters, our shit is what matters. And fuck you. I mean, I'm getting mine.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about it. You came
on. If I sent a picture of my cooch to like some rando, he might feel differently about it. I don't know. Maybe that would work for him. And so like maybe that's where it comes from. Is like the dudes want that, so and the girls do too. No.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Okay, yes, and they say men are more visual. I don't know if that's true or not.
No. I don't think. This is an exclusive that you're getting right now. I like dick pics. I just want to like get that. I want to know that I'm going to get them, and I don't want to get them from strangers.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. Even if you liked somebody, you don't lead off with that.
No, then I instantly don't like them anymore. Yeah,
building up to that part.
Right. And
then even then, I'm consent like 3 or 4 times. Okay, you sure?
Did you change your mind since I asked last?
And then okay, well then we're cool, know.
Right.
But just out of the gate, just makes no sense to me. I don't know. And thank you for that exclusive, by the way. You're live saying this shit. Just want to let you know.
I know.
I love saying this stuff. So, I don't even know what I was saying. So let's talk about your poem.
Yeah,
Actually, that you mentioned it.
sure.
So there was a little blurb actually after the fact. Do you mind me reading that?
Oh no, go ahead.
Or no, you go ahead and read. Would you have it up, or do you
Sure.
want?
Yeah, I've got it up.
Yeah, can you
I'm
just?
very well prepared at all times. So, oh, so you're talking about the little explanation underneath the poem?
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting. That was funny.
Okay. After my divorce, I spent about 5 years intermittently exploring the world of online dating. I would be on Tinder or OkCupid for a couple of months until my tolerance for absurdity, abuse, and misogyny had been exhausted, then offline for a few months, then on again. One thing that always fascinated me was men's choices with regard to profile pictures. I live in northern Indiana, which may explain why there are dead animals and so many of them. Something I find pretty repugnant. I think I find it especially more repugnant because I'm vegan, right? So I'm all like animal rights.
Oh
And
God, you're even worse. Okay.
I know I'm like at the list of all of the worst things that everyone hates. Okay, one picture really stuck out to me. A man who had his lips actually touching the actual mouth of an actual dead bluegill. That was a level of commitment I had not before seen. It got me thinking about the unfortunate way that dating is often seen as akin to hunting or fishing. There are plenty of fish in the sea, right? What man doesn't enjoy the thrill of the hunt and want to bag a hot blonde? And to make it easier, just visit a quote meat market. The first line of this man's profile specified that he was looking for a wife, but not just any wife. He wanted a godly woman. The title of the poem, which is Fisher of Women, is thus a play on Jesus' title as a fisher of men. This poem explores these themes of fishing, the pursuit of relationships, and religion, hopefully in a way that's at least as amusing as that guy's profile was.
So that's. I just thought that was fucking hilarious. So why don't you go ahead and read the poem right quick,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
Fisher of Women. You're trolling for a wife. You want to bore a hole and pull out salvation. You want someone to skin and fillet. Someone to replace the chilled lips of the bluegill pressed against the icy line of your mouth in your favorite profile picture. Someone slightly less slippery. Someone slightly more alive. I can tell you're a tender man by the way you remove the hook.
It's so. It's just gross. I mean, you're basically comparing that to like just slimy, like
Yeah.
you're a piece of fish. You're a
Mhm.
slimy fish or something.
And it wasn't even a big fish. It was a goddamn bluegill. It was like this.
Okay, see, that's not what you're supposed to do. Aren't you supposed to get like a big
Just,
one to overcompensate or some shit?
yes. Like, look what a man I am. I have bagged this giant animal.
Yeah, or whatever. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? I don't know. I don't do shit like that. Not that I'm better or anything, but I just don't. I mean, just go with what you're good with. I don't
Yeah.
hunt or fish or anything. South Bend, is that northern Indiana?
It is the very north. It's right on the Michigan border.
Oh, see, yeah, I haven't been there. Where did I go? Fort Wayne. That's where I've been
That's
before.
it's about an hour and a half from here.
And of course Evansville, but that doesn't even count.
It's
That's
mostly
like the South, or
yeah.
that doesn't. That's right there. So yeah, I don't. I mean, of course, in the South here we have hunting, obviously. Fucking, ugh, God. And I've never gotten into that sort of thing. I understand people who, I guess, in certain like deer. I guess I don't like it personally. I mean, a sport. Go fucking play football. I don't. Why the hell you gotta shoot shit? I don't know.
Right.
Maybe if you're in Montana or something, you have to shoot stuff to
Yeah.
live, maybe, but
Right.
I just don't understand the point of it. Anyway, but it kind of fosters this culture of kind of gun
Yeah.
craziness, I think.
Yeah.
If
South
you're,
Bend's really interesting. It's kind of it's a little blue pocket, but not really. It's very surrounded by very, very red. Um,
well, it's a
so
college town, right? It's Notre
well, it
Dame.
Kind of. Notre Dame is here.
Not?
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like a college town because Notre Dame is really, really insular, and it is not like, I wouldn't consider it part of the community, even though it's like in the center of the city. It really doesn't feel like it is.
That's interesting. I thought it was more of a kind of a college town, and considering the fact that that's just weird to me. I don't know the idea of, and again, Mayor Pete. We're not going to talk of anything except for the fact that he was I just thought it was because he was he came out as gay later.
He came out as gay during his run for re-election. So yeah, he was elected the first term without anybody knowing. And he came out during the second term. He still got like 80% of the vote for his second term after coming out. But there definitely were a lot of like internet comments on the local newspaper thing being gay. So
that would never. Well, I say that. How big is South Bend anyway?
About 100,000 people.
Yeah, it's not even that big. So yeah, there's no way in fuck that would fly here. I mean, the closest analog I can think here maybe would be Knoxville, where UT is. Maybe there's no fucking way in shit that's happening there.
Yeah, getting reelected.
Yeah, or even getting getting reelected.
Yeah,
and I would argue get elected. He's way too young and pretty or something. They want an old white dude or something, probably.
I mean, it wasn't surprising when it came out either. I mean, he never. I've met him a few times, and he's actually friends with one of the people I work with, and he just never dated anybody, and it was kind of like suspiciously never dated anyone. So
yeah, I'm always, of course, we're not going to talk about Lindsey Graham.
No.
And I don't like to do that because that implies that just because he's gay and that is a slur, but I'm not using it. And anybody who uses policies that discriminate LGBT folk, to me, and if you happen to be gay, to me that's just shitty as hell.
You mean like women supporting Trump?
Well, I can't.
I don't.
White women suck when it comes to Trump. I don't know.
White women suck. Yeah, I mean, as a rule, white women are pretty bad. I mean, we're going to do whole movements, right, that just exclude anybody more marginalized than us. And
well, hashtag white feminism or whatever, that kind of thing. But I don't want to speak to that because that wouldn't really be appropriate. I have heard that from women though before. So.
It's true, and it's tricky. So I mean, tricky. It's a pain in the ass to deal with. If your feminism isn't intersectional, then it doesn't count. It's not real feminism. So
you and your SJW term. Are you virtue signaling?
Yes, that is exactly what. Because like appearing on this podcast and saying that I'm intersectional is going to get me fame and money, and I don't know what else.
What I always, that's
a good thing, I guess.
Do they think you get some kind of credit?
I don't know. I guess being part of a group, I mean, that's the only benefit I could even think of that, like I'm accepted, but I don't really have a desire to be accepted. Like I could say a bunch of bullshit to be accepted among Trump supporters, but like, why do I want to be accepted among people that I don't share values with? Right. So like, if I didn't have these virtues, why would I signal them so that people I don't even want to be like friends with will like me? It
doesn't make much sense because what benefit would you get out of it except ridicule? I mean, I don't understand. It's like you say, you're not getting paid. You're not getting a bread tube or whatever the fuck they call it. Like all these fucking, dudes on the right always do. They get all kinds of money from talking shit about feminism is cancer, wherever the fuck.
Yeah.
You don't see anybody making money off. I mean, there are a couple, but they don't make that much off like, social justice stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
No, you don't go into that for fucking money. What are you doing?
No. If I am, I'm really failing at it. Like if you can make money at social justice, I'm just really bad at it.
Then you're not. Then the whole idea is that you're supposed to. Aren't we socialists? I forgot. Is that,
I might make a lot. I'm just going to give it back to everybody.
Well, unless you're, you're like somebody like Bezos who gave what was it, 100 million or some shit like
Oh
that.
yeah, and it was like
It was
uh,
like a pittance of his.
0.2% of his, yeah.
I'm like, okay, calm down. Give your employees a living wage and give them
Yeah,
paid time off.
amen.
We'll call it even. How about that?
Hmm.
You know. So I don't know, man. So anyway, let's leave this on a positive note though, because I do the FHA. Uh, Tell me one more time what the goal is of FHA.
Well, so the reason that the FHA exists is to help the AHA be mindful of and accountable for social justice issues. So, like, we kind of monitor what they're doing and making sure that it's not harmful to any marginalized groups. And we also do our own programming to help, like, advance the social justice causes of the Humanist Association. So, and there's four groups. There's the FHA, the Feminist Humanist Alliance. There's the LGBTQ Alliance. There's
Okay.
the Black Humanist Alliance, and there's the Latinx Humanist Alliance. So obviously we each have our little focuses, foci, I think is the right word. Yeah. So, and the FHA is like one of our overarching goals for all of our programming is to help make a safer, more welcoming space in the humanist community for marginalized people.
And I think that's a positive. And the fact that you said the other ones, I actually have heard of the Black. I think Sincere Caraba was.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still is or not, but at one point he was the head of that or something.
Yeah, I don't think he is now. So I believe it's Diane Burkholder, who's also doing awesome
Yeah.
work. Diane's great. Yeah, so we have money available. Can I do a pitch real quick? The FHA is giving away money.
Yes.
So we are offering scholarships for people from marginalized communities to attend the World Congress in Miami in August. So it's like the annual Humanist Conference, but it also is like international. Every 3 years, they do a World Congress with all the international humanists. And so that's this year in Miami. And in order to encourage more people from marginalized groups to come, we're offering scholarships for travel and lodging. You can apply at the Feminist Humanist Alliance website. We also have microgrants available for activism art. So, like, for example, if you are doing a demonstration and you want to make a bunch of signs, we will give you a small grant to help you pay for that, stuff like that, to help encourage grassroots organizing.
And of course, you're going to send me all that information so I can
Yes.
post it on the show post when I post it on
Yeah.
the website, so everybody will know that. I think
Definitely.
it's also great that y'all are doing that. And like I said, I had on Noel the other couple of weeks ago, and Foundation Beyond Belief has stuff like that too. So I'm glad there are these different organizations kind of taking care of these kind of things, and especially with women involved, that's important. But also, as you said, we're talking about diversity in general, and not the same white dudes over and over again.
Right.
All right. Well, Krista, I want to thank you for coming on, revealing all your secrets about dick pics.
That's the only thing that's going to get out there. Like,
The salaciousness. Yeah.
That's right.
So, one more time, you have the FHA, right? And then, do you have a writing website?
Yeah. My personal website is kristacox.me, M-E.
Okay.
So that's where I've got links to poems and essays and stuff like that.
Okay, good. So send me that link too, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I want to personally thank you for liking the cat pics. Although I need you to like my personal cat page. I don't know if you like the personal cat page.
I don't know. I don't think so.
It's Callie and Circe's Cool Cat Corner. Okay, I'm going to send you an invite from the page.
Okay, now I have to, before I accept the invite, I have to ask, are any of those hard C sounds at the beginning were made with K's?
No, they're C's.
Okay, then I can do it because it's my least favorite thing when to be like people take alliteration and like Krispy Kreme, for example, the donut shop. Why are those K's? If they're C's, they make the same sound.
Yeah, no, I can't take. Obviously, the show is Postmodern Polymath Podcast.
And that's fine, but you didn't like use a different
No,
letter to represent the P.
no, that would be against my aesthetic. No, I don't. Yeah,
This is against my aesthetic, so I can like your cat page because
Yeah.
it passes my very low bar for rules.
and there's an Instagram. I don't know if you're on Instagram, but
Yeah,
okay, well, it's the same thing on Instagram. I think there's a link to it. But anyway, just in case y'all want to look at cats,
I will always want to look at cats.
I post them all the time. I've fallen off a little bit because my arm, but I'm trying to capture more. If you got any ideas for cool cat stuff, let me know. Anyway, that's.
I have an idea.
You're the subject.
What about the Cat Humanist Alliance?
Is
You make it a thing? There should be. We should make that. I'll pitch it to Royce Beckhart over at the AHA and see what.
What would be? That seems counterintuitive. Cat human. So
I mean, cats have a unique interest in protecting the interests of humans, right?
So we promote cats for the comfort of humanists, so they can do more stuff. Maybe if we put little, like advertising stuff on their flanks. You put those little blankets on the sides or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then like they say little slogans. Maybe they just have the AHA like symbol or something that can pose or be doing cute cat things.
I just feel like all the wokest cats need to have a place to go.
Those are the only cats. I mean, I love cats. Don't you ever come to me with an anti-woke, because you put that on the cat yourself. Cats by nature are woke.
That's true. I agree.
Don't be coming at me with no fucking anti-wokest. Silverman, I will fucking punch you down. Don't you fuck with my cats.
Amen.
Anyway, okay, I'll calm down a little bit. All right, Chris. Thanks for coming on. It's been fun. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks so much. It was great.
Well, have a great night.
You too.